What's going on? It's Connor from the Dolphins Dive, and today is preview day, breaking down Miami Dolphins versus Pittsburgh Steelers. Before I get into the video, quick little plug to my shop, thedolphinsdive.com. Go rep QB1 with this Tua Time merch. We got shirts, hoodies, and mugs. It's his time, man. He's coming back off the injury, the head concussion, and it's right into a revenge game. Tua versus Brian Flores. We all know the beef. I made a video earlier this week. I'm going to limit my talk about that because, like I said, there's a video. If you want to watch it, go check it out. Without further ado, we're going to hop right into it. Dolphins offense versus Pittsburgh's defense. So in terms of points per game, the Dolphins are 18th and the Steelers are 23rd in points allowed. Now, granted, let's be real. The Dolphins have regressed offensively since Tua's gotten injured. It's been clear. We've seen it on a lot of clips on Twitter about talk show hosts finally admitting that, wow, we actually know Tua's worth because with his backups in the same situation have not been as productive. So we knew that all along. Passing yards per game, the Dolphins are a whopping second, so they're second best passing offense in the league. Steelers are 30th, so it's a big discrepancy they have to look to attack. Rushing yards per game, Dolphins are 30th, which it's an issue, and the Steelers are 18th in terms of rush defense. I'm going to hop right into the keys of the game. So first and foremost, we got Tua coming off the injury. The most important thing is to protect him. Luckily, it sounds like we're getting Tron Armstead back at left tackle. So the only hole on the offensive line is going to be right tackle. It looks like Austin Jackson's still going to be not playing, so it's going to be between Brandon Shell or Greg Little. I think we probably want to see Shell rather than Little, but we'll see how the coaches want to handle that situation. But he's coming off the head injury. But part of protecting Tua comes on him himself. He admitted in his press conference as well. He's got to get rid of the ball in better situations. But we also need the offensive line to protect better. I think having Armstead is going to be a big deal because last week it was awful, but you're missing both your starting tackles against an elite pass rush. The Steelers pass rush, this is going to be more blitz-based as well as I feel like more interior because of the guys that are going to be mentioned in my Players to Watch segment. But protect Tua, protect Tua, protect Tua. Second part, quick game. We all know the weapons that the Dolphins have, and Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill and Trent Sherfield's been pretty solid, Mike Gesicki, Raheem Mostert. Get these guys the ball. The Steelers, I mean, it'll be interesting to see how they want to handle this, but the Steelers also sometimes leave heavier. I don't think they'll do it because they know the threat of the Dolphins, but they tend to be a little linebacker heavy on the field. So if you can get the ball into space and you got one of our great players on a linebacker in space, I'll put all my money on our guys. So take advantage of the personnel mismatch if they have extra linebackers on the field trying to stop the run and get it to your playmakers in space. So I think it could be easy in that aspect. Like I said, especially the Steelers like to blitz a lot, sending both linebackers off the edge. If you can just quick game them and make players miss, it makes everyone's life easier on the offense and will open up more things down the field. And then last but not least, test them deep. And the Dolphins have done a good job at this. And there's sometimes where there's a deep shot taken. Tua did it a couple times. I saw Skylar Thompson do it last week. It's he's covered while he's throwing it, but it's you have to keep the defense on their heels because if you can prevent them from creeping up and trying to stop the quick game, then it opens up the quick game. But if they're only selling on the quick game, then you hit them over top and make them pay for it. So you have to keep them on their toes, keep them backed off, and open up more things underneath. And you don't even necessarily need to test them for them to know that with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle because they're that dynamic and fast. But make them pay. It would be nice to see Tua hit a deep ball in his first game back, especially against Brian Flores. I'll mention the Brian Flores topic real briefly. I think Brian Flores gets a little too much flack from Dolphins fans. He was a great defensive coach, and he helped turn this team around. With that said, his inability to hire offensive coaching was abysmal. It was awful. He couldn't hire an offensive coordinator, an O-line coach. It was awful. Defense was great. All props to him. I love his story, where he came from. I think some of the culture he tried to build is just not replicable coming from the Patriots. I understand the self-accountable, we're going to shit on you regardless of how good you are and try and break you down to make you better. I appreciate that, but I don't know if it's really a successful way to go about things unless you're Bill Belichick for the most part. So, like I said, much love to Flo. I think he's a great coach. I was upset when we fired him. I think the Dolphins did make the right decision, and I hope Flores eventually gets another opportunity. Like I said, I think he's a great coach. I hope he changes some of the things he does. With that said, he did limit Tua's ability, whether it was, I don't know what kind of personal thing there was. You saw the Fitzpatrick clip I posted earlier in the week. I don't know what was there. It's such a weird thing because you're like Tua's such a fun-loving guy, but there was clear beef, and I don't know. But we're gonna get right into the players to watch segment. If you weren't here for last week, I switched it to opposing players because I was tired of being redundant saying the same players. So for the Steelers, players to watch, obviously Cam Hayward. We all know about him. He's a vet in the league, very solid pass rusher, more of a 3-4 end. So watch him off the edge. This next guy is honestly probably the biggest guy on the defensive line, in my opinion, Larry Ogunjobi. I don't know. I think he's more of like a nose tackle kind of guy, but if he's matched up on Liam Eichenberg, God help us. But Larry Ogunjobi is a superstar. He's phenomenal on the defensive line. This next guy, Miami Dolphins legend, Minka Fitzpatrick. We all know about Minka. He's a stud. He can line up all over the field, in the box, in the post. He's very dynamic. Make sure you locate him every snap. Don't make a mistake towards him. He'll make you pay. He's a phenomenal player. I'm hoping he doesn't make us pay. Although it's kind of full circle how we're like, we don't want... It's not like it's a Minka revenge game because the person that got rid of Minka is on the same team as Minka. It's not like the Dolphins wanted to get rid of him. I mean, it was kind of Flores and Minka's situation that caused it. So, I don't know. It's a weird thing. And then last but not least, Miles Jack. He's a vet in the league. He's going to be playing middle linebacker for the Steelers. Now, he's one of the guys you want to make pay if they line him up in the slot or with a back. You want to make him pay. But he's still a very good player. Make sure you don't make a mistake. Let him read your eyes because he's still a very dynamic linebacker. So that's it for the Steelers defense for players to watch. We're going to hop into the Dolphins defense versus Pittsburgh offense, which is honestly going to be very interesting because they're pretty close in statistics and just it's going to be a fun matchup to watch in my opinion, especially on like a Sunday night where it's preview primetime, like every little aspect is being inspected. It's going to be interesting to watch. So the Steelers are 30th in points per game, so pretty dookie offense, but Dolphins aren't much better on defense with 27th in points allowed, although I think it's a little skewed due to garbage time and playing good opponents, but that's besides the point. Passing yards per game, Steelers are 25th in points for, Dolphins are 24th in points allowed. Rushing yards per game, Steelers 28th in rushing yards per game, and Dolphins are 11th in rushing defense. The thing with the Dolphins run D is like, we'll stop 10 consecutive runs for like 3 or less yards, and then a big one springs. You have to prevent that leak. That's the biggest thing with the Dolphins. We saw it last week with Dalvin. So those are the numbers. Overall, if you look at the numbers, the Steelers' offense just isn't very good. But I'm going to mention some stuff in the keys of the game that could lead to the Dolphins' demise. So first key of the game, despite the numbers, stop the run. If the Steelers are able to run the ball on you, they're going to. As the numbers showed, they haven't been able to have much success. But if they're able to pound the rock with Najee, they're going to. Obviously, we all know how good of a player he is. I'm a big Najee fan myself. I wanted him to be a Dolphin. So, yeah, you have to make sure you stop the run. Make them one-dimensional because they're not very good otherwise. But once again, I think it's going to be one of those situations where it's you stop them, and they spring one. But we'll see how it goes, especially with the dynamics of Flores knowing our defense inside out. Maybe he has some tips on how to mess us up. Should be interesting to see. Number 2, pressure. Kenny Pickett's starting the game. He's a rookie. Send the dogs. Try and confuse him. Disguise coverages. Send pressure. Pressure burst pipes. So let's see what happens. I like our guys versus their guys. Sending pressure, making him make a quick decision. I feel like you're going to end up getting him to hold onto the ball too long, maybe getting a strip sack, making him make an errant throw and a pick. I think this might be a game where our defense can start to turn the tide and get turnovers and really punch the opposite team in the mouth. I think we saw flashes of that last week, and our offense didn't help our defense. But I think this could be the turning point for the defense. But the thing that could prevent that from happening, which is my third key of the game, is prevent contested catches. So the Dolphins are without 3 starting corners, or not 3, but Or without Byron Jones, Nick Needham, Keon Crossan, Kader Kohu's questionable. So you're talking about our DBs are going to be like Xavier, who's a stud, Kader Kohu, who's been solid, Kader Kohu / Justin Bethel in slot, and then Noah Benogany, who had a great game against the Vikings. Don't get it twisted, but it's just a sketchy crew to have when you're facing. The Steelers have great receivers. Despite the numbers and everything, they've got a unique skill set of receivers that can make tough contested catches. They're all big, can catch it over the top. So especially the Dolphins playing a lot of man-to-man coverage, prevent contested catches, because aside from one or two of their playmakers, a lot of them are kind of just contested catches guys. They're not going to create a ton of separation man coverage. So if you can prevent the contested catches, you're going to prevent a lot of yardage from happening, in my opinion. And with that said, I'm going to go right into the players to watch. I already highlighted him, but Najee Harris, like I said, this is a guy that if he's able to take over the game, they're going to let him and pound the ball with him. You just have to prevent that from happening. He's big, he's physical, he's fast, he's everything you'd want in a running back. He hasn't lived up to the expectations quite so far this season, but he's still a star. George Pickens, we all have seen from draft day on and all the contested catches he's made. He's very dynamic, and he's one of the guys I'm meaning and prevent contested catches. George Pickens isn't a guy that's going to run past you or take a slant to the crib. He's one of those guys that's going to catch the ball on top of your head and threaten you in that aspect. So it's important to prevent the jump ball to him or the back shoulder to him, because he's got a great frame and he makes those tough plays. Number 3, Deontay Johnson. Now, he's honestly kind of different than the other two that I'm going to mention. He's more of like a shifty slot guy. He can get separation underneath, especially against a banged-up secondary. One of these guys could potentially take over. I hope not, but that's the biggest thing is with this crop of receivers, you have to try and prevent a mismatch from opening up. Last but not least, Chase Claypool. Once again, a big dude. He's actually got speed as well, so don't let him take the top off the defense. Don't let him catch the ball in your head. And it's going to be tough, easier said than done, especially with our banged-up secondary. One of these guys could potentially take over the game. I just hope not, but we'll see what happens. So that's it for the breakdown. I'm going to go right into the prediction. I believe I'm 4-2 on predictions. The Dolphins are 3-3. Hopefully I'm right. I have the Dolphins winning. I'm going to predict a whopping, I think the Dolphins are going to put up some points. I'm going to predict a score of 41-20. Dolphins win 41-20. You heard it here first. That's a breakdown. Comment down below your score predictions. I appreciate anyone for watching. It means a ton. And until next time, I'll catch y'all.